In Japan 1987, Team Cross Wonder was founded and immediately got to work on games for the arcades and Sharp X68000 home computer. The first game was Metal Sight, a shoot 'em up with a mech theme. They rebranded fairly quickly to Fill-In Cafe and got into a real groove of making a game for the PC or arcades and then having several ports of every game they made. They made a lot of sci-fi stuff around this time, and making a lot of games of the Space Harriers-esque gameplay style. Galaxy Deca Gaiwan was a big step in a new direction, a beat-em-up game for the PC Engine, fun character designs, and yet again a sci-fi theme. But it didn't really grab me, unlike the main focus of today. Mad Stalker Full Metal Force, sometimes written as Fourth, and sometimes Force. I guess it's just a minor confusion because of how it's written as Forsu in Japanese. While it originally released on the X68000, I'm going to play the PC Engine version as it's generally considered to be the best. A fast-paced and beautiful recreation of the original game, being very faithful even if it's lacking some scrolling elements. The story is set in the city of Artemis in the year 2142. The world has been at peace for many years. An old warship has been discovered containing mechs from what's known as the Old Wars. The recovered mechs were not any regular machines, but what's known as slave gears, highly powerful war machines from a bygone era. Two of the mechs found were Hound Dog and Rising Dog. They were taken in by the police to be tested and used in some experimental use cases. The warship's main computer, Omega, switches itself on and begins hacking the military network. At the same time, Rising Dog goes rogue, as Omega begins shutting down the city and enabling any and all war machines that it can get its hands on. The city is in chaos, slowly being destroyed. You have to choose one of the three pilots who then go on to fight against Omega. Being a CD-based game, we get plenty of voice acting. It's fun to see the characters interacting before the mission too. This is the only game where we actually get to see or know the pilots in any way. We have Chico, Richard, and Eve as our playable characters. They all control different mechs with different abilities. Chico controls the Hound Dog, able to throw around big punches and uppercuts as well as having projectile moves. This mech is the only one that can double jump, which really helps with fighting airborne enemies. Richard uses Kamui, a samurai themed mech that relies on its sword more than anything else. Big slashes and good range, but it's a bit slow. Then there's Eve and the Gong. It's the most agile mech by far, letting you spin around and do crazy jump attacks. Getting up close and personal is the way to go, and getting those throws in is super satisfying. This mech is my favorite by far, it's just so fast and frantic. You jump by holding up on the D-pad, and use the two main buttons to do light and heavy attacks. Most moves are a combination of D-pad inputs followed by button presses. Very standard fighting game stuff, but you can also hold both buttons to block. You get 3 continues, so if you die 4 times, it's game over and you gotta start from the beginning. Each stage has at least one boss fight and a decent variety of enemies to go up against. The combat is nice and punchy. The sound design is great too, and the music just makes it all come together. The visuals are awesome, and I love the little touches like the devs referencing themselves by having a cafe named Fill-In on the building here. Between each stage you get to see more chatter amongst the pilots and the military as they try to figure out how to handle this situation. The game isn't very long as you can beat it within an hour, but it's meant to be replayable. There are 6 levels set across the city and within the warship itself. It's a good time, and it really feels like they got a firm grasp on how to make beat 'em ups feel really great by this point. It is tough though, like really fucking hard. It took me about 6 hours to beat the game on easy mode. I got really good at utilizing the movement to the best of my abilities, especially Gong's wild Kid Buu-esque techniques. It even helps with traversal. Hound Dog also has a great movement option, but man, Gong is just too damn fun. I got into a real rhythm, even utilizing the turbo switches on the PC Engine controller and rhythmically tapping the D-pad to try to overwhelm my opponent with the spinny moves. I have some gripes about the experience. Like, I did get kind of annoyed with how hard it can be to reach these flying green mechs. Chico can reach them just fine with a double jump, but even then, they're so high up and often they shoot you down. If you play as Richard or Eve, you have to move to the sides and kind of make them come down to you, but it can just take some time to really reach them. And they'll fly up and away when you get close, so you have to time it when they're shooting. Also, these orb guys just suck. The later variants especially. They fly around really fast and electrocute you, but they're only still when they're about to attack. And it's hard to combo them as well. But trust me, just keep at it and you'll find a groove that'll help you take these jerks down. After traversing the streets and defeating all the mechs you can find, the main computer, Omega, causes massive damage to the city. We have to fight through more mechs and get up there. We face a boss rush of 4 bosses in a row before we can take on the main computer itself. As we lay waste to it, we have to escape the crumbling crumbling warship. On the roof of it, we have our final battle against Rising Dog, who we've faced off against twice so far, but he's always gotten away until now. It's a tough fight, and towards the end he starts glowing and throwing all kinds of fast moves. Finally he goes down and we take our leave. Man, what a satisfying game to beat. You also have a versus mode where you can fight a friend or the computer and select between the playable mechs on the story and some bosses, 6 characters in total. I always appreciate side modes like this, as it just adds a lot to the total package. This game is really cool. That's just the best word for it. If you're up for a challenge, then it's well worth a try, even if it can be a bit finicky in spots. Of course, there are many versions of the game, but none of them have the same presentation and sizable chunk of dialogue that this game has. It is pretty fun to get to know the pilots, as I find it adds a lot to the experience. The original X68000 version is great too though. I love the layered scrolling and the little people running around. The FM Towns version is solid too, but it seems to be a bit of a downgrade from the original, as it's lacking some details, as well as the scrolling elements. Also, neither of these versions have the other 2 mechs. It's just Hound Dog that's available in the story, but you still have the versus mode. There's also the semi-3D PS1 remake. I feel that it strays a bit too far from the original vision. Not a bad game though, even if some of the backgrounds are kinda ugly and blurry sometimes. And then there's the Mega Drive port, which was unreleased until recently. I think all in all, the PC Engine version feels like the most fleshed out experience as a whole, and I just enjoy it more than the others. Phil and Cafe kept making amazing games after this, one of my favorites being the Asuka 120% series. There's an amazing video by Guile, which I highly recommend, and I'll link it below. This fighting game series is fucking bonkers. Super fast paced with wacky characters and a fun vibe. The best one being the Sega Saturn release, which even got a patch made by the original developers. Sadly, the patch came out after their company went defunct, so they released it online for people to download and then patch it themselves, even making a whole guide on how to do it. The dedication is remarkable. They had to cancel their planned arcade release as well, so their last game was an RPG on the failed PCFX console called Makeruna Makendoshi, which released in 1998. I wish we could have gotten to see what else this team would have made if they had stayed together, but they left a hell of a legacy. That's all I got for you this time. Thanks for watching.